Hello, my name is Lauren Sandler and I'm the Learning Specialist at the UF Teaching Center. In this video session, we'll be going over note-taking strategies. But before we delve into the note-taking strategies, let's focus on the different types of lectures that you may encounter during your time here. The first type of lecture is the organized lecturer. In this type of lecture, make sure that you copy the material from the board or print the PowerPoints before class so that you can take notes of your own on the side. Make sure that you understand definitions of key words before you come into class, and as being prepared for class, make sure that you read the material beforehand. When you're studying for this type of exam, make sure that you put your own examples in the margins of the information that was presented during class. This will help you remember the information longer because it's in your own words. The next type of lecture we have is the storyteller lecture. In this type of lecture, the storyteller will present the information as if it's an interesting story. In order to take notes on this type of lecture, create an outline of your own so that you can organize the information before you get to class. During class, make sure you ask questions to yourself such as, what is the point of this information? What is this illustrating? How does this fit with the big picture? Because in this type of lecture, it's very important to understand the main ideas. Ask questions during class if you're allowed to help fill in the gaps or get more information on those main points. And then relate the ideas and definitions in the text to examples that are presented in class. And then the last type of lecture we have is the discussion. In this type of class, you want to always come prepared with your own contributions. Make sure that you prepare for class by reading beforehand and synthesizing the material before you arrive. Listen for cues about the value of ideas that are being discussed. Did your professor elaborate on a specific point, or are certain topics reoccurring? Make sure that you take note of these types of indicators of what's important. It's also important to distinguish between main ideas and examples, and to record your own responses to the questions that are posed by the professor. A lot of times professors will start off this type of lecture by posing a question to the class. You might not have said your answer out loud, but you should write it down so that you remember what your response was. Compare the ideas that are presented in class versus the ideas and the keywords that you find in the text. See if they match. For more information on classroom participation, visit our video resources page. So now that we've thought about the different ways that information can be presented to us, now's the time to think about note-taking strategies as a whole. There are two different ways you can take notes, either passively or actively. In passive note-taking, it's almost as if you're a tube and the information just flows right through you and you're not really synthesizing anything. So to avoid this, we're going to try to take active notes. Active notes is when you synthesize the information, you interact with the material, you put the information in your own words, you find comparisons, you make contrasts, and you find different ways that you can apply the material and think about the consequences of the material. As you can imagine, taking passive notes does not help you in the long term. It's really associated with your short-term memory. You'll probably forget before the next test without reinforcing it. Another problem with passive notes is called the rigidity of access. If you study the information in only one form and it appears in another form on the exam, it's not likely you'll be able to take the original information and apply it to this new form. So be sure that you're thinking about the material and you're rearranging it into your own words to make sense to you. When we have two stages of learning, we've got to think about the different ways that we're taking notes. The first stage of learning is the introduction of new knowledge, and this can be your passive notes. It's very possible that taking passive notes first is the best step to learning the material to start with. So once we've taken these passive notes, it's important to move on to stage 2 of learning, which is the reinforcement and the integration of new information with your existing knowledge. Stage 2 is active learning, so you should be translating and paraphrasing the new knowledge into your own words, into your own organization patterns, and into your own outlines. So if you focus on stage 2 and actively learning and actively taking notes, you're more likely to remember this information for the long term. So now let's think about, how do you take notes? Do you put your information into a formal outline? Bullet points, a concept map, pictures? Do you take notes at all? I'm going to present you with the Cornell Note-Taking method. but I have a disclaimer. This format is just a suggestion and it's not your only option, but I would suggest that you try it out for about 2 weeks. You may be surprised that it actually works for you, but 2 weeks is generally what it takes before a new study strategy can actually take effect. So give it a try, and if not, we can go into other note-taking strategies later. But first, on your screen here, you'll see the note-taking template of the Cornell Note-Taking method. On the top left corner is the ID block. So you'll put what class this is, what date it is, and who the lecturer was. Sometimes the lecture changes up, so make sure that you know who you're getting this information from. Then at the top of the page, you'll put main ideas, any questions that you think that the professor may ask on the test or on a quiz, any recurring themes or topics, and then what the emphasis of the class is for the day. So once you've gone ahead and done this, go ahead and take your notes in the main section of the page. After you've done that, right after class, go ahead and summarize the material underneath the main note section, and then on the left-hand side in the margin, write down any key words, key phrases, or any ideas that'll help you recall the information later. If you'd like to print out a template of this note-taking page, visit the website at the bottom of your screen. So why use the Cornell note-taking method? It actually can save you time. For every 50 to 60 minutes of gathering new information, you really only need to spend 10 to 15 minutes of review and summary or making anticipated test questions. Cornell note-taking system has students taking active notes because you're synthesizing the information. And students who take active notes remember twice as much information for twice as long. And the time spent taking these active notes, even though it can be a little over an hour that you're taking the notes, will help you in the long run because you're constantly reviewing this information. Cornell note-taking method can help you in multi-level reviews. You can review and reinforce the information each day before bed by going through your notes, or right after class, or right before class. You can also use the Cornell note-taking method to review the week's notes on the weekend. Go through and fill in any gaps of information that you might be missing and identify where you need to spend more time studying. And then right before the test, spend the whole week before the exam studying your notes, and then a little bit beforehand using the information that you have on your summary page. Cornell note-taking method helps you review very well. Before you begin your final review, sort the information. Talk through your notes out loud and sort the pages into 2 piles, either information you're comfortable with or information you're not comfortable with. Once you do that, take your time and spend most of it on studying the information you are not comfortable with. Get the worst over first. And then once you're done getting comfortable with the uncomfortable stuff, then go ahead and focus on the other pile and make sure you integrate all the information before the exam. For more information on how to take notes from a textbook, visit our Reading Speed and Comprehension. The UF Teaching Center has a variety of resources for you to succeed during your time here at UF. The first, you can set up a study skills appointment. You can also visit more of our video resources on a variety of topics, or you can check out our walk-in and private tutoring for your course-specific questions. Good luck, and we hope to see you soon.
The Teaching Center, UF's Learning Resource Center.